The views and opinions expressed by the guests, callers, and hosts on this and all Rense Radio Network programs do not necessarily reflect or agree with those of the network, its commercial sponsors, its radio station affiliates, or Internet broadcast platforms. In these controversial times, we believe the First Amendment and freedom of the press are absolutely essential to the survival of our nation. Thank you. And now, enjoy the program.
Okay, and welcome back. It is a Tuesday, a 20-something, almost a 20-something, the 19th. I can't keep track of it all. I do have, though, the ability to keep track of the TrendsJournal, thanks to our colleague and guest this hour, Gerald Celente. I've got the new copy, and this is a publication that is honestly, truly unique. It is so full of Celente grade wisdom and then some that you just kind of, and I don't have time to read, but I've just thumbing through this thing three times now, and it is full of the most relevant, cutting-edge information that you can find. It's also full of perspective. It's got that very famous picture of the 4 maps of Palestine showing how much land has been consumed by the malignant Zionist tumor called Israel. It's shocking, and it's something you kind of want to look at all the time. Talk about a trend. That one started in 1948, and it sure as hell hasn't slowed down any. The TrendsJournal, you can get your new copy now. I would urge you to do it. I would urge you to subscribe. There are a few magazines around that are worth your time. I think of, speaking of time, that rag and others. They're all house organs, folks. The media is owned by about 6 corporations now, and you are fed a careful diet of talking head Bolshevism. That's what I was going to say. I knew it. Sounded like another word there. Talking head Bolshevism. That was a good recovery, wasn't it? And all kinds of crap that they want you to reflex about, and most people just think they're informed as they can be if they watch the news for a half an hour. Gerald, welcome back.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
You're welcome. I almost said the B word there, but I'm not sure which is worse.
No, you can't do that.
Bolshevism.
You have, I was just reading a report that U.S. drone strikes in Afghanistan rose sharply last year, and civilian deaths have sharply increased as well. So don't use bad language. Not when you can kill people and call them collateral damage.
That's right. Boy, oh boy.
Yeah, be a good boy. Don't raise your voice.
We can talk about the smog in Beijing and how it's flowing across the Pacific, but we don't want to talk about the radioactivity that's being emitted from Fukushima around the clock and flowing across the Pacific, and in the Pacific too, do we?
No, well, that's a conspiracy theory. That's because that thing blew up into a million pieces, and they couldn't contain it, that doesn't mean the radiation's seeping anywhere.
No.
I mean, the government said it's okay.
We don't want to talk about the fact that a functional nuclear power plant like Crystal Creek, owned by Duke Energy, is going to be shut down, and That'll only take between 50 and 60 years to shut down.
Things take time. Things take time, you know.
It's amazing.
The whole thing. I know.
It really is.
It's one big bad show, man.
If this species had been taken over by an evil presence, which it has, and was designing a mechanism by which it could do itself in, which it has, it couldn't do a better job of what it's done. Which it is. Honest to God, it blows my mind.
I know.
Just amazing. All right, the next issue, hopefully we'll have a photo of that meteor on the cover. That's a big story. Now, you know this, and many of our listeners may sense it, but the lid has come down on this thing from the highest levels. Nobody's talking. Not the Pentagram, not the Kremlin. Nobody's talking. And there's a big military angle to this, a huge military angle. We don't really know what that object was. We've got pieces on the ground, looks like rock. Okay, probably was an asteroid, small meteor, and a meteorite when it enters the atmosphere. That's the difference. We are looking at that video, which I hope you've seen, which shows, obviously, that object was shot. Not down, but shot through by something and blown into pieces. If you haven't seen it, I'll send it to you, Gerald.
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
It's a huge story. The Russians are locked and loaded. They acquired that target, and they hit it with something. Now, this takes me back 10, 15 years ago when someone, I've forgotten who, maybe Putin's predecessor, somebody in the military in Russia, said that they had developed a super weapon which obfuscated and basically made all other normal, conventional ICBM-type nuclear weapons passé. What we may have seen was a demonstration of that. And if I saw that video correctly, you may see it differently, but that object came from below and behind and went right through that glowing white-hot piece of rock, 50 meters, 200 tons, was it? Something like that, and came out the front side, blowing pieces out with it. Now, it's also suggested to me, I haven't confirmed this, that meteorite was headed toward some very sophisticated and secretive nuclear installations in Russia. It was going in that direction. And I don't have confirmation of that. Again, this is just a secondhand story. But this is a big deal, and it has the highest level of military involvement. Take my word for it. What have you heard, Gerald?
I really don't know a lot about it, in terms of hearing anything more than what's out there. But to me, the issue is also, how irrelevant we all are. If this, this game could end tomorrow morning, and then you read the stories. The UN's on the case now. We're gonna inspect them rocks coming in here more than we used to. I mean, everything is so temporary, and and to me, it's no coincidence with the whole meteor. The passing of the meteor and this happening right with it. There's so much we don't know. Someone told me that there are more galaxies than there are grains of sand on the planet.
Right.
We don't know anything.
Right. No, nothing. Less than nothing. It's an obscenity how little we know. I agree. And
it's. As you look at things, this thing is ready to come to an end. My God, the levels of immorality, the levels of corruption. Every day as part of the TrendsJournal, we do a Trends in the News feature. And today I was doing it on the G20 meeting and the currency wars, which I've been talking about now for 2 years, and how the Federal Reserve has destroyed this country. Well, I've been talking about how we're seeing a parallel play from the crash of 1929, the Great Depression, currency wars, trade wars, World War. So a fan sent me a Newsweek from 1941. On the cover of the Newsweek, there is these GIs with this, mortar or whatever, anti-aircraft gun. And this is in July, remember. We don't get attacked in Pearl Harbor until December.
Right.
And you can see the whole lead up to war. It's right in front of you. It was no surprise. But anyway, there's an ad in there to stay at the Waldorf Astoria. Now remember, the Waldorf Astoria, 1941. This is like the Grand Palace in New York City. It's one of the best hotels around. A single room in 1941 at the Waldorf Astoria, $7.
Wow.
A double, $10. So if anybody has any doubt about how they're debasing the currency and how they're making us work longer and harder and get so much less, all you have to do is put that number and the time and place in your head. Because even though it was $7, there were a lot of people that did have $7 in 1941. And, it wasn't out of reach. Although it was out of reach for a lot of people, there were a lot of people that, I could splurge on $7. What is that? A couple of Happy Meals today?
Yeah, the Astoria, $7 for their best room?
No, for a single room at the Waldorf Astoria.
Okay.
Yeah, and $10 for a double.
Wow, and the Hotel New Yorker was probably about the same.
It was probably less.
Probably. The Astoria was at the top.
Yeah, that was the gem,
Unreal. Speaking of the Hotel New Yorker, Nikola Tesla lived there for the last 10 years of his life in the hotel. His pigeons used to come in the window, and he looked at them, and they looked back at him, and there was something going on there. Interesting story, that man, of course. Wow, $7 for a single, 10 for a double. Okay, be right back. Okay, and back talking to Gerald Celente, and again, the new edition of the TrendsJournal is out. Just a great magazine. I don't know what it is about the layout here, but having watched videos of Gerald's digs, you understand why this is. It's really a pleasure for the eye to look at the font is right, the layout is right, everything is right. Honestly, this is about the most perfect magazine format I've never seen one any better. I'm looking at it right now again. And of course, the illustration. You're welcome.
Well, there's no advertising. That's the other thing.
It's gorgeous.
There's 60 pages of.
Well, it's 150 in most magazines because of the ads.
Yeah, so that's what makes it also. This is just information and analysis. We're not selling anything.
Nope, selling truth.
Yes.
Okay, what's next?
Well, as I was mentioning, the top story in that TrendsJournal is war, and they're leading us to war. And
absolutely.
and as I said, the play is the same. It's the Depression, first the crash, the Panic of '08, the Great Depression, currency wars. Again, we were talking about currency wars for 2 years. Now it's all the news. And then, of course, trade wars. They're heating up in World War. Let's look around the world and let's really look what's going on. There's a war in Libya. There's a war in Syria. There's wars now throughout North Africa, thanks to the United States and NATO in overthrowing the government of Muammar Gaddafi. And now those weapons that he had are all seeping through northern Africa, and it's a fight for minerals, and it's a fight to keep the Chinese and Indians out, and for the French, the English, and the other colonial powers to keep grabbing what's ever there. Then when you go to Europe, there's a war going on. It's class warfare. You see the scandals that are racking Spain. Of course, you don't hear them here in the States because they're talking about, money and death and sex, the kind of things the prostitutes like to talk about. And so they're not reporting on the outrage in Spain, the high crimes and misdemeanors being committed by the Rajoy government, who has imposed these harsh austerity measures on the people, well, they're taking these kickbacks and virtually living like kings. And then you have unrest in Greece as well. You're looking at unemployment rates of well over 25% officially, and among young adults, it's about 55 to 60%. John Anthony West, our executive editor of the TrendsJournal, he just came back from Egypt on Sunday. And for those of you who don't know who John Anthony West is, I suggest you type in Mystery of the Sphinx, Google it up, and you'll see he's the man that has proven, with geological proof, that the weathering at the base of the Sphinx predates the Sahara Desert. It's water erosion. So it's old, at least as old as the end of the Ice Age, which brings it back to 10,000 BC, not 2,500.
They know exactly what rainwater does to that kind of rock.
Yeah, it's geological proof. It's incontrovertible proof. Anyway, he just got back, and he's been going there for years. The systems are totally broken down. The people can't stand Morsi. There are strikes. It takes now, he said, to fill up for gas about 12 hours of waiting online. The entire system's breaking down. Tunisia, that's in revolution as well. Bahrain, Yemen. You keep going around and you can keep seeing the unrest. And then right back here in the States, we had predicted this long ago, that there was going to be a rise in crime, more violence as the economy declined. You know my saying. When people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it. And that's what's going on. And that's why you're seeing in this country, we're losing more and more of our constitutional rights, because they know that this thing is collapsing, and they have to clamp down on us as hard as they can as the natives become very restless. So they're leading us to war, and that's my greatest concern.
They're leading us to war abroad and at home, and part of the deconstruction of the society, which will predicate that a war is inevitable, it already is the diminution of the collective herd intellect of the American populace. This people is becoming so stupid and so dumb and so easily controlled that they could start a war here at home tomorrow if they wanted to. Yeah, anything. And again, the dumbing down of America is in front of us at every level. Look what the people look like. Look what they're eating. Look what they're thinking. Look at the drugs that they're taking, these prescription drugs, the epidemics that we're going through. Again, these are very, very dire times, and I only see it getting much worse unless, of course, people start finding the truth within themselves, and that's one of the great stories in the TrendsJournal, and that's the Great Awakening. There was a Great Awakening before the Revolutionary War. It was spurred by religious awakening in the sense that people realized that they didn't have to listen to an orthodoxy or a hierarchy for them to gain their salvation, if you believed in salvation. And it was really up to the individual. The second phase of that was you didn't look up to royalty either. Their blood wasn't better than yours. And that was the works of Thomas Paine and others. And right now we have a political royalty, whether it's presidents, prime ministers, or chancellors. Look what's going on. You read the news with Obama. Look what's going on with his wife and kids over in Aspen. They're shutting down airspace. They're closing off areas. The same thing with Obama. Every time these politicians show up anywhere, they roll out red carpets. They have a bunch of flunkies saluting them, honor guards for hundreds and hundreds of people for every two-bit world leader that walks in. Who's paying for all this stuff? They close down cities virtually, just like they did back in the old days when the revolution was going on. Exactly.
The nobility comes running through with their carriages, knocks over everyone, because, the nobleman has to get to where he's going in a hurry. Right. Same thing today.
Mm-hmm. The serfs mean nothing. They're just walking bags of water. Okay, Gerald is here, and we'll be back another half an hour to go. History before it happens is at the bottom of the TrendsJournal on the cover. And it's all there. It's all there. Do contact, and you can go. Tell them how to get it, Gerald, quickest.
TrendsJournal.com. TrendsJournal.com.
I mean, it's all there. I mean, you can go, you can phone, you can email it, whatever.
Yep.
Get yourself a copy. This is a great magazine. This is a keeper, as they used to say in that TV commercial. Back in a minute. Okay, and we're back with Gerald. By the way, in the golden days, the Astoria Hotel, well, let's see here. Scott, thanks, wrote in. Scott Teeters has his own wonderful program on this network. He wrote in, he says, always great to listen to Gerald. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics inflation calculator, $7 in 1941 is equal to $110 in 2012. So it was $110 a night for a single. That's what you'd expect.
Actually, it's $250 for a single. That's what they begin at.
Cute.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's see here. I had something else I was going to say. Oh, this is kind of interesting. They had a diamond heist. Did you hear about this one? You talk about.
I certainly did. Yeah.
Yeah. Night had fallen. Some 20 airplane passengers had taken their seats for the short hop from Brussels to Zurich. Unknown to them, a precious cargo was being loaded into the airplane along with their suitcases. 50 million in rough and polished diamonds. But the diamonds would never reach their final destination. I'll cut the long story short. In 3 minutes, poof, robbery. It was a big haul. You read the story, it's up.
And there's going to be a lot more of it, as I said.
Yeah.
Society's breaking down at every level.
Yeah.
And as we pointed out when I began talking about this back in 2008 when the panic set in, I said what they're going to do is the response is going to be we got to get tough on crime and, of course, gun control. And that's what they're doing. And that's the response. Rather than looking at, hey, why is this happening? Oh, it couldn't be because 1% of the population got 11% of all of the gains last year, and 99% of the population in the United States saw their income decline 0.4%.
That's the
that
same.
Couldn't
that's
be
the
it
way,
at all.
No, of course not. That's the way it works in third world countries, folks.
Exactly. And what's happened here, Jeff, it's been a takeover. A takeover in every sector. And what's happened is that this used to be a country of entrepreneurs. Now, this might sound trite and childish, but one time when I was a young man, there used to be pharmacies that were owned by the local people in the neighborhood. They weren't all owned by CVS and Walmart and Walgreens and Rite Aid. People used to have an opportunity to run their own stores. And it was the same thing when I was a kid growing up. There were two Macy's. There was one in Yonkers and there was one in Herald Square in the city. Mm-hmm. And that meant that people could open up their own shops, their own clothing stores. They had a thing called haberdashers. That's where men used to go buy clothes. Oh, and they used to have other things, too, like grocery stores and a lot of little delicatessens. Oh, and they had butcher shops. Isn't that quaint? Mm-hmm. Mm. So what's happened is there's a takeover in virtually every segment of society. whether it's big agriculture, big farmer, broadcasting, you name the category, a few own it all.
The steamroller that is Walmart is unprecedented in, I think, financial and economic history. Certainly in retail, they put up their first wave of stores, their big box buildings, and then they came up with their super Walmarts, which are magnet centers. I mean, they've got it all huge. So they've got the top-tiered store, the biggest, and they've got the big box Walmart, and then they had some loose ends they had to clean up. Mom and Pop, Main Street, they wanted to make sure that there really wasn't much of that left anymore, so they've come out with Walmart Express. They've got the whole spectrum covered. That's it, folks. Now, they're bitching and moaning that their sales are down 7% to start the month, but that's just a tiny little aberration. It means nothing.
And it's worldwide.
Exactly.
It's worldwide.
This is a reflection of the worldwide. It's like squeezing a sponge.
It's a takeover.
Squeezing a sponge. That's what it is.
And now all the people have to do are to become clerks. You know, Bill Clinton, when they passed NAFTA, he said that, you know, we would become a service sector society. We have service, servitude, servant, serf. That's what we are.
Perfect.
You get a job packing bags. What a wonderful job. Stocking shelves.
But they're going to raise the minimum wage, Gerald.
Oh, yeah, right. That'll change
everything. Don't forget that.
You know, so it's really, the whole thing has been one takeover, and people don't realize that laws were put in place so this would never happen. This is what was happening at the end of the 19th century, when the robber barons were stealing everything. And they put in place the Sherman Antitrust Act, the Robertson-Patman Act, the Clayton Antitrust Act, Glass-Steagall for banking, so that we wouldn't be raped by a few. And now the rape is on. And who would have ever dreamt that so many people would be employed at doing these serf-level jobs for Walmart, Rite Aid, CVS, and the rest?
Well, wait till Obamacare hits, okay? 29 hours a week or less, those folks are going to be whacked. Everybody's going to be whacked by that one.
Yeah, and employers are now hiring more and more part-time people.
That's what they're doing.
Because they can't afford to do it.
No, they can't pay the Obamacare tax, and so 40-hour jobs are going to give way to 29 and less. And these people... Go ahead.
No, go on.
I see, these people are barely making it now on 40 hours a week, and most of them aren't. They're getting help from mom and dad or whatever. Anyway, when this hits, folks... You watch what happens. This country will be irrevocably turned into second world, diving on down to third. It's going down.
It's already underway. And the other point that I was going to make in talking about Obamacare, and people keep correcting me on this, and they're wrong. The merger of state and corporate powers, by definition, is fascism, and fascism has come to America. You could see it not only with the National Defense Authorization Act, the wiretapping, now the ability for them to kill us with drones, even in our own country. They refused to answer yes or no on that question, Brennan, at the recent Senate hearing. And too big to fail. I mean, that's it. There's no capitalism.
That horrible woman, Judy Blume, the author who began the sexualization of teens and tweens, apparently has a film adaptation of one of her books. So it's like the Kinsey people. They're memorializing all these people and elevating them to God status. Of course, our young people are so far lost and gone now, there's really no rehabilitation for them, unless they're living in a family that they're doing home teaching and they understand the horrible monstrosity called television and the mass media in general. And, of course, if they buy them a video game, the kids are gone, too. Hang on just a sec. We'll come right back with Gerald. Okay, and we're back with Gerald. Just for fun, CNN, the Communist News Network, I just grabbed their This Just In, the top stories they want you to look at. Just to give you an idea, we'll run down this real quick. This is where this tabloid mentality has gone. Kansas City gas explosion injures 19. All right, okay, explosion. Killer gets last-minute stay of execution. $50 million in diamonds stolen in 3 minutes. Baby-slapping suspect turns himself in. Will alleged slap have lasting effects? Christian dating website linked to rape. Goodbye Hotmail, hello Outlook. Clive Davis, whoever that is, reveals bisexuality. Joe Biden, buy a shotgun, not an AR-15. See, they're trying to grease their way around that one now. Catholic laundries enslaved girls. Tiger and Obama are winners. First Lady bangs our midlife crisis. Oh baby, stars expecting in 2013. Judy Blume fan, I can die happy now. Breasts and butts out in 2012. Faces in. See 9 golfers sink 9 putts at once. Now, folks, talk about a tawdry, toxic buffet. There it is.
It's the National Enquirer on the air.
Yeah.
It's all this Cartoon News Network. Where'd they bring this guy in? Jeff Zucker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did he? I mean, what a wonderful job he did with NBC. I mean, that's real hard-hitting news. I mean, come on. And they just brought in a new director of communications, a vice president of communications. First of all, they brought in Chris Cuomo, who's Governor Cuomo's brother,
eminently qualified,
right? And the Senate and the son of the former Governor Cuomo, and they just brought in the NBC as a communications director or vice president of communications, something like that. Governor Cuomo's current communications director. So you could see the revolving door. You look who the mouthpiece is for Obama. This James Carney. Carney, of course, is the slang for carnival man, and he's the perfect guy. Who was he with before? Time magazine. It's a revolving door, and on every level. This guy Allen, the general in Afghanistan that did such a wonderful job there. Now he's retiring. I wonder what segment of the military-industrial complex he'll be going to.
He's got it. His future is assured. Come on, he lost the email king, lost his NATO spot, so he'll go into the private sector at some board of directors, and they'll give him a couple $100,000 a year, or more than that, full perks. He can go on the paid speaking tour, that circuit. That's what Hillary's doing. Yeah. So,
and my favorite one is that Stanley McChrystal Meth, the guy that was the head of the troop surge in Afghanistan. Yeah. As goes Kandahar, so goes the war. That guy who squeezled his way out by leaking information. He's teaching leadership at Yale. I love it.
Perfect. See, there's humor in all this.
I know. Well, you have to, or else you'd want to blow your brains out if you couldn't laugh about it.
I mean,
Jeff, a lot of people want to know what's going on with gold.
Please.
And gold prices, of course, should be going up. I began this conversation talking about the currency wars, and virtually every country and every region are lowering interest rates and pumping out cheap money to keep the Ponzi scheme alive. And in the latest one, of course, is the new Prime Minister of Japan, Abe, who before he got in said that he was going to force the Bank of Japan to keep buying up more worthless debt. In other words, print money. You call it anything you want.
That's what they're doing. They're doing what we do.
Yeah, they are. The Europeans are with their long-term refinancing operations and OMT, ongoing monetary transactions. Ongoing money. Keep the presses going. That's what it is. Transactions. So what they're doing is they're all debasing the currencies. And with that going on, and China's doing the same, but they're doing it differently. They're doing it a lot smarter in the sense that they're building the infrastructure of the country with the money that they're dumping in. We're just building war machines, and we get no return on them. So, but every country virtually, the major players, are all printing money. And you just saw what happened in Venezuela. They devalued their currency as well, the bolivar. So, and under these circumstances, gold prices should be going up because there's a global devaluation of the currencies by printing all of this money. So why are gold prices going down? Why are they hovering around $1,600 an ounce as we speak? My belief is, and this is not a conspiracy theory, the game is rigged. I mean, after all, there is proof positive that they rigged the LIBOR rates. They rigged the interest rates of hundreds of trillions of dollars worth of interest rates.
Yep.
So if they're rigging that, of course they're going to rig this, because if gold prices start soaring, people will be dumping out of these valueless currencies, and the calamity goes on to high speed.
Exactly right. Exactly correct. And I want to commend you for mentioning gold without saying the word Corzine. How disgusting.
Well, the whole thing is disgusting.
Yeah.
Again, you haven't seen one head on Wall Street roll.
No, you won't.
And everybody's making a big deal about that video going around with Elizabeth Warren asking this guy from the SEC, but have you prosecuted anybody?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like high school. It is high school. These are the same people you hated in high school and college that wanted to be class president and head of the student council. You
profiled it perfectly. I'm once in a while a head will roll. Now Madoff, he made his mistake. He put the touch on his own people too much.
Exactly.
He burned his own
people.
That's right.
Exactly. He hit the big money people.
Yep. They don't like that.
They don't like that.
So they killed his kid, didn't they? Hung him out to dry. Didn't his son commit suicide? Ha ha.
Yep. Yeah, so he made a mistake. He screwed the wrong people. You know, the mobsters don't, you don't screw around with the other mobsters, And so no heads rolled under the Obama administration. Not one. And, I love it. Today he came out. You know what his top priority is going to be?
No.
Create jobs.
Oh, God. Have you
heard that one before?
I was going to say, have I ever heard that anywhere before?
I don't know.
Did he follow it with more money for schools or anything?
I think just more money for wars.
He didn't say anything about $5 a gallon gas, did he? By any chance?
Well, again, people don't realize what happened. Look at the charts. Again, I was talking about this. You look at the price of gasoline prior to the election in 2012.
They do it every time.
And exactly, it began to decline in April. It bottomed in just before election day, and about 20 days later, it shot up like a rocket. Yeah. You look at the charts; they're right there for anyone to look at. You don't think this game is rigged?
It's it is so despicable. It's so obvious, and there's no pushback. There's nobody. They're coming at us from too many different ways, and the people can't isolate something to oppose like the Vietnam War. They got the equivalent of 20 different Vietnam War sorts of things coming at them. They don't know what to do. And so what do? They hit the remote and they go to the ball game. Geez, they got ball games on 27 hours a day, I understand. Yep. You don't have to go without. Doesn't matter.
One of my lines is conservatives, I'm not talking about true conservatives nor true liberals, but who call themselves today. Conservatives believe and liberals lie. Like, the fringe element of conservatives will say, we got to kill them Muslims over there before they come over here. I actually believe that's stupidity. as if they have a bone to pick with us.
Exactly.
And it's not because we're over there raping their land and propping up dictators. No, that has nothing to do with it. So they actually believe it, though. The liberals lie. You can show one Obama atrocity after another. You could go through the National Defense Authorization Act. You could go with the warrantless wiretapping. You could go on with rendition, about closing down Guantanamo. You could go about how just before this election, he promised everybody that they were not going to raise taxes on the working people, and they did with the repeal of what was the Social Security benefit program. And now everybody's paying more Social Security taxes. You could tell them about one lie after. Oh, I got this one. How about this? More natural gas, fracking, right? Yeah, frack you. That is it. No. He has to do these things. They'll make any excuse that they can for Obama. The liberals lie.
It's amazing.
They're the ones that are holding back the change.
It's amazing. By the way, there's one more thing we should mention here. They've got this new medal they're going to give to drone pilots.
Yeah, I heard
and
that.
this medal for these cowardly chicken manure video game jockeys who kill people half a world away and high-five each other. This cowardly medal will actually have more rank and status than the Bronze Star in combat. How disgusting. It just boggles my mind. Thank goodness we've got you and the TrendsJournal and your wisdom to look at and lean on, because these people, they're lost, most all of them are lost, headed to second and third world status on a fast freight train, and they don't get it. Thank you, Gerald. Always a pleasure.
Okay, man. Take care.
You too. Night.
Bye-bye.
The TrendsJournal, TrendsResearch.com, and by all means, get yourself a copy. In fact, get several. It's awesome. Back in a minute.